Okay, I wasn't planning on making this video, but I fell down a rabbit hole in the last few days, and if I don't tell somebody about it, I'm gonna lose my mind. So there's this game called Trackmania, right? You may have heard of it. It's an arcade racing series about trying to get the best times on 11 billion tracks, and its big thing is user-generated content. You can make tracks, paint cars, edit replays, all kinds of stuff. Gives it a ton of longevity and a very dedicated community. The games are made by Nadeo, which is a quirky company. They're a little odd. The only games they've ever made are Trackmania, some competitive sailing games, and Shootmania Storm, which is a whole other can of worms. They do everything with their own engine and operate in their own little bubble where all conventional wisdom and reason goes out the window. The epitome of this is Maniaplanet. From 2011 to 2017, they released Trackmania 2, which may be the second, third, fourth, or fifth game in the series, and may also be 4 games, depending on who you ask. But they didn't just release it like a video game, they made it a part of Maniaplanet. Maniaplanet's a little difficult to explain, but okay, you know how Call of Duty has the weird COD HQ thing now, where it staples all the games together in one application? It's kind of like that, but insanely over-engineered, kind of better, and more than a decade older. It is an utterly bizarre thing to behold, and using it feels like if Microsoft Bob released in 2007. Everything is both way too literal and way less straightforward than a literal version of it would be. Case in point, stations. You can't simply download and play games and mods, you have to install them to a station first, and to do that you have to select them from this list of imaginary game cases. But that's assuming you have a station open. If you don't, then you have to buy more planets, which is the currency of Maniaplanet. And while that sounds like a scheme to make you pay up to install more mods, you can't actually buy planets. You have to earn them by making progress in games, so there's no financial incentive for this. It may seem like this whole process is completely redundant and a massive overcomplication for no reason whatsoever. Anyway, the client's heavily tied into the community side of things. People schedule events and host tournaments and things through it, but this is also where we find the biggest, weirdest thing Nadeo's ever made, and the subject of my recent obsession. If you click this unassuming little compass in the corner, you come to this page. Enter a Manialink address. The game isn't going to tell you any, but I happen to remember a few from the old days. Punch one in, and lo and behold, we've stumbled into Manialinks. Manialinks are a strange, isolated mirror world intranet that's all Nadeo all the time. Anybody can host a page, so long as they have a Maniaplanet account. You can put whatever you want on them, but the main purpose is to host Trackmania content. So basically, it's Trackmania Hypnospace. It is a lot to unpack. Even just aesthetically, I mean, look at it! Nadeo's UI design has always been a bit blunt, and boy does that influence bleed over into here. Between the lack of standardization, the complete disregard for visual taste, and the extremely slow page loading, it feels like I'm browsing the internet in 2008. The pages even play music! That's great! Yo, what? They got a shoutbox! For bonus points, this game is over a decade old and Nadeo moved on to Trackmania 20 years ago, so Manialinks are a complete Wild West for moderation. Yeah, sure, put a jukebox full of copyright music on your page. It's cool, you can get away with it. As far as content goes, you can find almost anything on these. You know, as long as it's Trackmania related. Mr. DVD has lots of good maps and assets, but for customization, TM Sora is the place to be. Here you can get the finest of form avatars and player models. I always wanted to play as Piccolo in Shootmania Storm, and now that dream is coming true. You buy these with planets, forming a sort of player economy for custom content. It's a really interesting idea that you don't see very often. Probably because you can bypass it entirely by downloading whatever you want off of real websites where they obviously don't cost anything, but it's still neat. There's a catch though. These pages are hosted by the users, not Nadeo, and with this game being so old, most Manialinks are long dead. To make it worse, the oft-maligned Maniaplanet 4 update shuffled some things around and broke many of the downloads on surviving pages, as well as stripping out all of the original ways to find Manialinks. I tried using an old Maniaplanet 3 client, but no dice. So generously, I would describe the state of Manialinks in 2024 as a fairly functional ghost town. And if that wasn't enough, there is no central directory of Manialinks. The only realistic way to find them now is to go down old forum threads of them looking for any that are still up, then exploring the ones they link to, and the ones they link to, and so on. There could be any number of them that are still living but can't be found this way, and really the only way to access those would just be blind guessing. Though, in a way, that does make exploring them more interesting. You kind of start forming a mental map of them, and it feels like you hit a jackpot when you're going down an old list of them and one of them actually connects. Of course, if you're really desperate, you could just join a server and start asking around. They'll probably think you're a freak of nature, but Trackmania players are pretty chill, so maybe it'll work. It might even be worth it, because if you check between the cracks, you can find some odd things on Manialinks, like Pong, or a fully functional Breakout clone. Want a paint program? You got it. But all of this is just a shadow of its former self. This weird enclave of the internet will never be what it once was. And I wish I could at least see what it was like to use when the pages all worked right. Well, we're in luck. While Maniaplanet was new to Trackmania 2, Manialinks actually weren't. They were also in the previous game, Trackmania United Forever. And Nations Forever, which is listed as a different game, but it's actually the demo for United Forever. It's a Nadeo thing, I'm just gonna use that. Those games never had an update like Maniaplanet 4, so their services are still in working order. Of course, most links are dead, but downloads are still active. In theory, anyway. I guess I need United Forever after all. That's fine, I'll just go pick it up on Steam, it can't be that expensive. Oh. Screw it, I'm already too deep into this. Once you have United Forever, you can start grinding out ranked times on tracks to earn coppers, which are basically the equivalent of planets. I'll just do that for a bit to get some walking around money. 1,000 ought to be enough. Looking around a bit, this version is definitely more intact. All of the downloads I can find are working, and even better, it still has the advertising system for Manialinks. Otherwise, it's actually very similar, it's just obviously improved a lot by being able to use everything. Honestly, finding and playing maps off of here is downright elegant by 2008 standards. If you dig deep enough, you can even find gambling! But the house always wins. Shockingly, one of these Manialinks is hosted by an esports organization and is supported to this day, which kinda shook me after seeing so many abandoned pages. Still, most of them haven't been touched in a long time, and a lot of links are dead. I think the isolation is getting to these people. Some of these car models ain't right. So that's Manialinks. They're just about in ruins now, but it's not hard to see how they might have been a bustling community once upon a time. But I still had one question. How do they work? Like, what are they actually? What am I looking at here? It turns out it's pretty simple. Manialink pages are just XML. The UI in this engine is directed by XML tables, so just write some in the format the game expects, tell the game to read from it, and you've successfully hijacked the UI system to display a web page. It's a pretty elegant solution, honestly, and with some help from the documentation, it seems simple to learn. And you can still register Manialink codes. So, I'm making a game called Avenge Myself, right? It's a speedrunning FPS partially inspired by Trackmania, Steam link in the description and all that. Look, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. I made a Manialink for the game. It doesn't have an actual website yet, but it has a Manialink, which is basically as good, assuming you're playing Trackmania. And you can make one too. Alright, I'm gonna make this quick not to bore you. What you need to do is get your assets and write your XML. It's very simple, the documentation can walk you through it, and then host it somewhere. It doesn't matter where, but you need to be able to get direct URLs to the files, so Google Drive or something like that isn't gonna work. My recommendation is GitHub. It's simple, free, stable, and it's just the easiest option if you're not hosting much. The link to the repo for my page is gonna be in the description, and you can use that for reference if you need to. Then you need to go to the Maniaplanet site and register the Manialink. The in-game code goes here, and the direct link to your XML goes here, and then you're good. If you can put the code in on the in-game browser and it works, then everything is set up right. If you want it to be discoverable in-game, you can register at r-link. That's the only page I've found where submitting links still works right. Also, post a comment with it. I want to see. If you want to host multiple, then each will cost 100 plans a month, but like, that's chump change. Why am I telling you all this? Because as much as Manialinks is a dead platform, it doesn't have to be. New pages can work just fine. The bugginess is just with ones that didn't keep up with updates, and there's not going to be any more of those. Nadeo ain't looking, they're busy charging $20 a year for a game with less content, so hey, I mean, it's open season. Now, is there any practical reason for everybody to go make a personal Manialink like GeoCities in 1999? Obviously not, but, right, counterpoint, it'd be really funny. Like, let's say this video gets 10,000 views, right? And maybe 2% of those have Trackmania, and like 10% of them spend the 30 minutes it takes to make a page. That's 20 pages. Like, that's double the amount that are still up. I'm just saying, if we want to make our own goofy Hypnospace, we have the power to make it. So what are you waiting for? Get it going! The next video is gonna be more normal, I promise. Like, the brain worms didn't let me make something normal this month. Anyway, Patreon questions, let's go. How hypno is this space? It's pretty hypno. We got dinky personal pages and made up currency and stuff. It's pretty close if you squint. There's no Zane though. That I mean, hey, maybe one of you can fix that. If you don't have Trackmania, then that's fair, but also TM2 Stadium's like $5 on sale, so